Thanks everyone for coming. So this was going to be last night, but obviously is today. So yeah, thanks for giving up your tea break to be here. We are going to do the Office of Danger Choose Your Own Adventure story. So we've got a social engineering engagement. The target that we've been given from the client is a multi-use office in central London. The client rents out half of the 7th floor and the entire of the 8th floor. We've done some OSINT. Trace Labs helped. It was great. They've got security guards on the ground floor up to the main building. They've got security guards on the 1st floor, security gates, speed gates to get to the lifts, security doors to gain access to the offices, and there are other users in the building which are shared working, so like we work Regis style on the 4th floor. Through our OSINT, we also hit up LinkedIn and we found names of head of IT and the IT staff within the organization. Right, remember all that. The scope that we've been given by the client is to access the 7th floor, access the 8th floor, do a scan of the internal network, and then identify any low-hanging fruit from that scan. So we're social engineering. So you will all be put in the role of a social engineer who gets to make the decisions. Social engineering is stressful. So stood up here in front of all of you, I'm pretty nervous. My heart rate is 109. On this engagement, my average heart rate was 100 over 2 days, with it peaking at 150. Now, to put that into context, I run 10K. My heart rate tops out at 170. So it was almost like running a 10K, speaking to reception, trying not to poo myself. So the rules and the game and what you guys are going to get to do. This is all down to you. It's an audience-based decision-making game. If you ever had the books as a child where it was go to page this, it's that idea. So on each slide, there'll be decisions, a blue one and a yellow one. What I need you to do is hold up your card in which decision you think we should go on. And I've got my lovely helpers, David and Tom, who are going to be independent adjudicators so that I don't lead you. They get to say which color is the majority. So thank you guys for that. And just to reiterate, it's a 2-day engagement that must be completed within office hours, so we can't pick the lock and go in at night. And the scope is access 7th floor, access the 8th floor, scan of the internal network, and low-hanging fruit. What you do have is the client has provided a get-out-of-jail-free letter that you can use at any point. Right, day 1. During your OSINT, you discovered shared office space within the building. Do you decide to use this, or is this out of scope? Right, you've decided that the third-party office is in scope. Do you, yeah, you guys stay stood now because this is going to get rapid. Sorry, yeah. Do you try and book a legitimate viewing through their head office? You ring up their head office. Someone from the office will be in touch later that day. They never ring back. So you've stood outside, you've had a look at the building, you've watched some people come and go, you've got a vague idea of what's going on, and it's time to go. You notice the security on the ground floor are mostly there to point people to the escalator, so you're pretty confident with a bit of walking you can get past them. So you bypass the security on the 1st floor, they're very helpful, and they point you up to main reception. When you get to the main reception, do you pretend to have a booking with the third party to view those offices? Reception rings the reception of the third party. They have not confirmed you as a visitor because you haven't booked in. You explain the whole backwards and forwards that the head office never rang back. And after a few minutes, you're presented with a security pass, which will get you past the speed gates to the lift, and you're told to head to the 4th floor. So the pass works. Brilliant. We're past the initial speed gates. We bypassed 2 sets of security. This is going well. You're at the elevators. Where do you go? Yellow. You go up to your client's floor. Which floor do you want to go to, the 7th or the 8th? Blue? Yeah. You exit the elevator, and you're buzzed through the door by the client's reception. You did not know that there was going to be a client's reception there. Looking around, there is no way to avoid the direct interaction with the receptionists. You walk as slowly as you possibly can to try and think of a plan. So you decide to pretend to be a new starter during COVID, working from home, and it's your first time in the office. Which name do you provide to reception? A fake name of an existing employee or your real name? Blue, fake name. So you provide a staff member's name. The receptionist looks you up on the system and notices you're in a call. You act really confused. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe you typed it in wrong. You get out your mobile, you check to pretend that you're not in a call. And while you're stood there looking really awkward, they continue to investigate. So the receptionist starts to look at you a little bit more suspiciously and asks for your line manager's name. As part of the OSINT, you have located the global head of IT's name. Do you try and change the conversation or provide the name? You're pretty confident that they wouldn't ring the global head of IT. And they obviously are dubious about it. So while they're sort of deciding what to do, the receptionist asks you if you've received your branded mug yet. You don't know what is going on. You stare blankly at them, and then you just go, no. And they pass you a branded mug. Do you take it? Why? The receptionist looks unsure at you while you admire your new mug. They ask you how you got to the floor and if you had a key card. Do you say someone let you up or show them your 4th floor key card? You show them the key card. The receptionist takes it and states that it isn't one of theirs. You get the impression they're starting to see through your story. They can't get through to your manager. The global head of IT is busy, weirdly, and they ask for any other contact details. Do you provide name of a contact or show them the get out of jail free letter? So the receptionist rings your client contact, who appears behind you. He's been in reception watching the entire thing. They escort you to a meeting room for initial debrief. So you've pretty much been caught. You've not been able to get past reception. So you have an initial debrief, explain how you got up to the floor and what happened. And together, you decide to make a plan. Do you call it a day, or do you ask for them to take you past reception? The contact agrees to confidently walk you past. The receptionist doesn't question it because you're with a known staff member. Do you ask to be left on the 7th or 8th floor? Yellow. The client decides that it's unfair to give you full access to the 8th floor. They leave you on the stairs between the 7th and the 8th floor. Both floors are protected by access-controlled doors. Luckily for you, the toilets are on the unsecured side, and after 5 minutes, someone goes through the door. You grab the door and let yourself through to the 8th floor. You sit at a spare desk without being challenged, partly thanks to your mug. After about an hour, people start leaving for the day. Do you stay and scan the network or leave with them? You stay and scan the network. You stay and do that for a few hours. Deciding that you're done for the day, you've had a good look round, you head back to the lifts and go back down to reception. There are security gates to get out, but because of the confusion with reception, who rang main reception and told them you had a 4th floor key card, that pass has been disabled. You're stuck between the lifts and some speed gates. Do you wait for help or do you jump the gate? You are not athletic. You start to climb over the gate, and a security guard sees you and rushes over. You explain that your pass doesn't work, and you show it to them. They very quickly escort you to a meeting room. You decide before it escalates, it's best to use your letter, and you are escorted out of the building. So, end of day one, you exit the building without further incident, because you've got a security guard next to you, and you head to the pub for a well-deserved pint. So, just so that we can see what you decided versus what I decided, because this was a real engagement for me, my day one timeline was I decided the third party was in scope, same as you. I rang up the head office, and they did not ring back. Same as you, I pretended that I had an appointment, which got me the pass. But where we then differed is I actually did a 25-minute tour of a WeWork-style office, which was really, really useful. Because they thought I wanted to rent a room, I got to ask, are there gates in the basement? Where can I park my bicycle? And then at the end, I requested to use the stairs so that I then had free reign, which they didn't let me, which was quite annoying. So then I got back to the lifts, went up to the 7th floor. I spoke to reception, and I provided my real name for some unknown reason. When obviously they looked me up in Teams, they couldn't find me, leading to confusion. But then we gave the head of IT's name. They tried ringing him, and he was actually on holiday, which was unbelievably fortunate for me. They gave me a mug, which I now use daily. It's beautiful. Ended up having to call the client contact. I just could not get past this receptionist. As I said earlier, the dickhead was behind me, watching the entire thing and watching me flap. He did leave me on the stairs between the 2 floors, which I managed to tailgate into the 8th floor. I then did get stuck between the elevators on the way home, but unlike you, I realized that my jumping skills are not great. So luckily, someone came down after about 10 minutes, and I explained that my card had stopped working, and they let me through, which was lucky. There was then a quick drop box for my access card, and I legged it. So that was day one. The key things there were I got in, I got past main reception, I got up to the client's floor. I then failed to get past their reception. Day two. So I had another debrief with the client, and because there is this WeWork office, we decided that an attacker could just hire a room there for a month and get persistent access past main reception. So we decided there was no point trying to do that again. So they said, right, let's sort you out a pass. However, his daughter was ill, so the only person in the building who knew I was doing this was at home. So I explained the situation to main reception, and they rang the client. It all got sorted, and after about 20 minutes, they provided me with a pass. Do you head to the stairs or the elevator? As you head to the stairs, the receptionist informs you that you'll need to be escorted by a security guard. So the security guard comes over and tells you that they're going to escort you up the stairs to the client's reception. Do you continue to the stairs with the security guard or head to the elevators alone? Okay. Can we just go back to the key points from day one? You failed to get past reception on the client's floor. And now, as a group, you've decided that you want to revisit the client's reception. Are we sure about this? They have issued us a pass, which would... Unfortunately, everybody else has said we're going to the stairs. So off we go to the stairs. You make small talk up with the security guard to the 7th floor. Pretty exhausting, 7 flights of stairs. They escort you through to the reception area, and they leave you there. You speak to the reception staff. They're the same ones as yesterday. And you attempt to provide an explanation about why the client contact came to help you and pass you through. They will not let you go anywhere without a staff member being present to collect you. Your client contact's working from home due to illness and is not able to physically collect you. Do you head back to the lifts or provide you get out of jail free letter? You head back to the lifts. While you're in the lifts, reception rings security. As you exit the lift, security guards meet you and escort you to a meeting room. You've been caught. It's time to use your get out of jail free letter and debrief the client. You're done. You ring the client, you provide a debrief. You've been caught. Thank you, chaps. And you go through your findings. The client asks if you can debrief both the client reception and the main building reception to ensure that everyone's aware of what happened and there's no hard feelings at the end of it. You debrief both of them without any issue. Job done. You exit the building and you go for a pint. So day two, my day two went slightly differently to you. Yeah, I've got time to do this. So I got provided with a pass. I decided that I tried to go to the stairs and they told me I'd have to be escorted. I knew that my heart rate couldn't take another interaction with the client's reception, so I decided to go to the elevators. Took the elevator up to the 8th floor to avoid the reception area, and I waited at the bottom for someone to come through who was going to that floor, then just tailgated them. As we got to the 8th floor, the guy couldn't find his pass to the office. So he was there, rummaging in his bag. I'm stood there. Do I go back down the lift, wait for someone else? I ended up rummaging in my bag. So we're both stood there in a glass area. Everyone in the office can see us, and we're both there hunching over our bags. I pull out all manner of useless stuff until he finds his pass and lets us in. Luckily, because we were friends by then, we're bonded, he just held the door for me, which was very nice. So I sat down, and I sat down next to the commercial services team. And I overheard that they were discussing someone who had entered and registered at main reception, but hadn't been to the client reception. And I realized quite quickly this was me. They were on the phones, and they ended up getting the building security to do a sweep of the building to look for me as I was sat about 2 meters away. So I did what any good person would do. I went and had a coffee because I didn't really know what else to do and I didn't really want to sit there anymore. So I went and had my coffee and tried to work out what was going on and what I should do next. So I decided I don't want to be in the main area because someone might recognize me. So let's hide in a meeting room. So I went into the meeting room, unplugged a VoIP phone to hope to get to a different network than the one yesterday. Turned out this very nondescript meeting room was the global head of finance's office. And he walked in as I was sat there. And it was one of those very much, who are you? And I was sat there tapping it. I was like, who are you? He was like, I'm this person and you're in my office. I was like, shit. So quickly left and kind of said, I was trying to new start and made up my excuses. And he was like, if you want an empty meeting room, go to the 7th floor. There are loads. Thank you. Brilliant. So I headed down to the 7th floor. The issue with that was the access control door. And what I didn't know is on the 7th floor, there were 2 doors to get through because they only rented half the floor. You went through one, then you could turn left or right to go through through to their office. So I followed someone through the first door after about 25 minutes of waiting on the stairs. And as he didn't let me through, I sort of ran up and caught the door just before it was closing. And he stopped in his tracks and just stared at me. And I was like, you're right. So I then had to pretend to go to the other office. And he went through, and I couldn't grab that door. So I was stood in this little trap for ages. I can either go back to the stairs, which gets me nowhere, or I can awkwardly stand here between these 2 locked doors. Luckily, not long after, a catering person came through with a trolley, and they beeped it. I was like, let me get that for you, and they let me in. The floor was deserted due to COVID, so I managed to just sit in a meeting room for the rest of the day, do all my stuff, which was nice. And then, rang the client, and they were like, apart from reception, who have done really well, I can't quite believe you've got all this access. Debriefed the client, and that all went very well. Everyone was very understanding. The company's receptionist was like, you're such a dick. Have we passed? Have we failed? I was like, it's not pass-fail. You've done really well. And we spoke about some things. I was like, don't give people a mug. Because that, as a token of trust, when I was walking around the offices and getting coffee, everyone assumed I should be there because I had this. And then I went for a beer because that's what we do. In summary, social engineering, absolutely terrifying. If you do offensive security, if you do anything, we've just had one of our salespeople do a few social engineerings. If you're like, everything's a little bit dull, I don't know how to get that adrenaline up, go and do social engineering. And I guarantee you will never appreciate sitting on the toilet with the door shut for 20 minutes more than when you're doing an SE engagement. And sometimes it works really well. So this was the office, the high-rise that we just did this game on. And you can see in the back is St. Paul's. They had very nice coffee. They had Danishes. It was a very nice office. Other times, you end up in a deserted laser quest in a shopping centre on the outskirts of Paris. Not so nice. But yeah, thank you, everyone. That's it. I hope you all enjoyed it.